all of the terrible stuff that he knows about my life. And he seems to, in this packet, there seems to be quite a lot of terrible stuff he knows about.
For over 3 decades, David Letterman stood as one of television's most influential late-night hosts, building a reputation on ironic detachment, sharp wit, and an interview style that mixed genuine curiosity with calculated irreverence.
My next guest is a very talented young man. He probably best remembered as Michael J.
From his NBC desk and later at CBS, Letterman created a cultural institution that redefined what late-night television could be, moving beyond simple celebrity promotion to something more unpredictable and psychologically complex. His willingness to puncture the artifice of celebrity culture, combined with his Midwestern awkwardness turned into performance art, made him essential viewing for audiences seeking something more authentic than the typical talk show formula. But that commitment to authenticity and unpredictability came with significant risks. Letterman's interview approach, which deliberately avoided the safe promotional script most hosts followed, occasionally created television moments that spiraled beyond his control. Guests who expected gentle questioning found themselves facing unexpected confrontation.
It's entitled The Indian Runner. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, and it's a pleasure to have him with us on the program.
Celebrities accustomed to managing their public image discovered that Letterman's format offered fewer protections than traditional talk shows. The result was a series of interviews that became legendary not for their entertainment value, but for their uncomfortable tension and barely controlled chaos. Today, we examine 7 interviews where David Letterman's distinctive approach backfired spectacularly, creating moments of genuine conflict, awkward silence, and television chaos that revealed the risks of his iconoclastic interview style and the complex dynamics between a host committed to authenticity and guests expecting something very different.
1. Cher.
Cher's 1986 appearance on Late Night represented one of the most openly hostile exchanges in talk show history.
This guest is a Grammy Award winner, an Emmy Award winner, and is the one, the only Cher.
A moment when simmering tension between host and guest exploded into direct confrontation on live television. The interview began with palpable coldness, Cher making no effort to hide her disdain for Letterman's interview style and previous treatment of her during past appearances. The defining moment came when Cher, clearly frustrated with Letterman's questioning, looked directly at him and delivered a line that became instantly legendary. "You're an expletive, Dave," she stated flatly, her tone making clear this was sincere criticism rather than playful banter. The studio audience gasped audibly, uncertain whether this was planned comedy or genuine conflict. Letterman, visibly caught off guard, attempted to recover with his typical self-deprecating humor, but the damage was done. The remainder of the interview proceeded with obvious tension, both participants going through the motions while the authentic hostility between them remained undeniable. Years later, both Cher and Letterman would acknowledge the genuine animosity behind that moment, confirming what viewers had witnessed was real conflict, not manufactured television drama. 2. Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix's infamous 2009 appearance on The Late Show created one of the strangest moments in late-night television history, an interview so bizarre and uncomfortable that it left both audience and host completely bewildered.
Just pray to God your city has been selected. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to the very talented Joaquin Phoenix.
Phoenix arrived on set looking disheveled, sporting a heavy beard and sunglasses, claiming to have retired from acting to pursue a career as a hip-hop artist. What followed was excruciating television. Phoenix gave monosyllabic responses to Letterman's questions, appeared disconnected and possibly intoxicated, and refused to engage in normal conversation. Letterman, initially attempting to play along, gradually became visibly frustrated as the interview descended into awkward silence and incomprehensible rambling. The interview became legendary for Letterman's increasingly desperate attempts to salvage something entertaining from the train wreck unfolding before him. His exasperation was genuine and visible, culminating in his direct question to Phoenix about whether he was under the influence. The appearance later proved to be an elaborate hoax for Phoenix's mockumentary film, but in the moment, it represented Letterman losing complete control of an interview, unable to extract coherent responses or create anything resembling normal television from a guest who had entirely abandoned conventional talk show behavior. The studio audience sat in confused silence, uncertain whether to laugh or remain respectfully quiet during what appeared to be a celebrity experiencing genuine crisis on live television. 3. Crispin Glover. Crispin Glover's 1987 appearance on Late Night became notorious as perhaps the most physically dangerous moment in talk show history, an interview that escalated from eccentric behavior to genuine physical threat.
My next guest had a very auspicious first visit to this program. Take a look at the videotape of a couple of weeks ago. There he is.
Glover arrived in character, promoting his directorial debut while dressed in platform shoes and behaving erratically throughout the segment. The situation deteriorated rapidly when Glover began performing karate kicks dangerously close to Letterman's face. What started as odd performance art crossed into territory that genuinely threatened the host's safety. Letterman, usually unflappable, leaned back in visible alarm as Glover's kicks came within inches of connecting with his head. The segment was ultimately edited for broadcast, removing the most dangerous moments, but the footage that survived showed Letterman's authentic fear and complete loss of control over his own show. During commercial breaks, Letterman reportedly confronted Glover about the dangerous behavior, and Glover was not invited to return to the show for years afterward. The incident demonstrated how Letterman's willingness to feature unconventional guests could backfire when those guests abandoned all boundaries of acceptable behavior, creating genuine danger rather than compelling television. Security personnel reportedly stood ready to intervene if Glover's behavior escalated further, transforming what should have been entertainment into a situation requiring actual protective measures for the host's physical safety. 4. Madonna's 1994 appearance on The Late Show became infamous for pushing boundaries of acceptable broadcast television behavior, creating an interview where the guest deliberately provoked and antagonized the host in ways that left him visibly uncomfortable.
They released a greatest hits collection entitled, here it is, it's Celebration. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the one, the only Madonna.
Madonna arrived with apparent determination to shock, immediately using profanity repeatedly and discussing explicit sexual topics in graphic detail. Letterman attempted to maintain control through his typical deflecting humor, but Madonna refused to follow conventional interview structure. She spoke over him, ignored his attempts to redirect conversation, and at one point refused to leave the set when the interview concluded, demanding the audience's applause for her to stay. The power dynamic completely reversed, with Letterman reduced to pleading with his own guest to respect basic show format. The interview became legendary for Letterman's visible discomfort as Madonna systematically violated every boundary of acceptable talk show behavior. His usual control mechanisms failed completely against a guest who seemed to delight in his discomfort, turning what should have been a promotional appearance into psychological warfare that left the host genuinely rattled. Network censors worked overtime during the broadcast, attempting to bleep the constant profanity while Madonna continued her relentless campaign to dominate the interview entirely on her terms, leaving Letterman uncharacteristically powerless in his own studio. 5. Shirley MacLaine. Shirley MacLaine's 1990 Late Show appearance revealed genuine anger simmering beneath the surface of what was supposed to be lighthearted celebrity conversation. MacLaine, promoting a book about her spiritual beliefs, grew increasingly frustrated with Letterman's skeptical questioning and mocking tone toward her metaphysical interests. The interview escalated when MacLaine directly challenged Letterman's interview approach, accusing him of disrespecting her beliefs and conducting the interview in bad faith. "You're being deliberately obtuse," she stated sharply, her frustration obvious. Letterman, caught between his trademark ironic detachment and a guest genuinely offended by that approach, struggled to find an appropriate response. The remainder of the interview proceeded with obvious tension, MacLaine making minimal effort to hide her irritation, while Letterman attempted damage control. The clash illustrated fundamental incompatibility between Letterman's interview style, which relied on gentle mockery and ironic distance, and guests who took their work seriously and expected respectful engagement. MacLaine's authentic anger revealed the limits of Letterman's approach when facing someone unwilling to accept his terms of engagement. What made this confrontation particularly significant was MacLaine's refusal to simply leave or disengage. She stayed in her seat, forcing Letterman to acknowledge the disconnect between his performance and her genuine emotional investment in topics he treated as material for comedy. 6. Harvey Pekar. Harvey Pekar's multiple appearances on late night during the 1980s created some of the most genuinely confrontational moments in the show's history. Interviews where host and guest engaged in open ideological warfare. Pekar, the underground comic book writer, refused to play the celebrity game, instead using his appearances to criticize Letterman, NBC, and corporate media generally. During one infamous 1988 appearance, Pekar launched into direct criticism of General Electric, NBC's parent company, accusing the network of various corporate malfeasance. Letterman, caught between his anti-establishment persona and his position as NBC employee, attempted to deflect and change subjects, but Pekar refused to be redirected. The interview devolved into shouting match, with Pekar accusing Letterman of selling out his principles for corporate money, while Letterman defended his position and tried to maintain some semblance of show structure. The confrontation was so heated that Pekar was eventually banned from future appearances. But the interviews that did air revealed Letterman genuinely challenged and unable to control a guest who rejected the entire premise of celebrity talk shows and used the platform for open rebellion against the format itself. Pekar's appearances exposed the contradiction at the heart of Letterman's anti-establishment image, revealing how even the most iconoclastic late-night host ultimately served corporate interests that limited genuine critique of power structures. 7. Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton's 2007 Late Show appearance, occurring shortly after her release from jail for probation violation, created deeply uncomfortable television as Letterman repeatedly questioned her about the experience, despite her obvious reluctance to discuss it. The interview became notorious for the visible power imbalance, with Letterman using his position as host to force conversation Hilton clearly wanted to avoid. Hilton attempted to redirect conversation to her promotional commitments, but Letterman persistently returned to questions about her time in jail, her feelings during incarceration, and details of the experience. Her discomfort was obvious, her responses becoming increasingly brief as Letterman continued pressing, despite clear signals she wanted to move on. The interview sparked significant backlash, with critics accusing Letterman of ambushing a guest and using his platform to humiliate rather than interview. It represented a moment where Letterman's approach crossed from tough questioning into something that felt exploitative, revealing how his interview style could backfire when applied to guests in vulnerable positions. The incident highlighted ethical questions about using celebrity vulnerability as entertainment, particularly when guests had already faced public consequences for their actions and came expecting a promotional platform rather than interrogation about personal trauma. These 7 interviews reveal the risks of Letterman's unconventional approach. While his willingness to challenge celebrity culture created compelling television, it occasionally backfired spectacularly. These moments of genuine conflict and awkward chaos demonstrated that authenticity in late-night television came with a price, creating unforgettable moments that showed what happened when Letterman's distinctive style met guests unwilling to play by his rules.